The morning started like any other at Harrison and Partners investment firm. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my phone buzzed with a bank notification. Probably just another routine alert, I thought, swiping to check. My heart stopped. Withdrawal, $87,000. Transaction completed at First National Bank, main branch. I blinked, hoping I'd read it wrong. The numbers didn't change. My hands trembled as I called the bank. "This must be a mistake," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I didn't authorize any withdrawals today." The bank representative's response chilled me to the bone. "The withdrawal was made in person, Ms. Turner. Your parents presented the proper documentation and your signed authorization form." My parents? I hadn't signed anything. "That's impossible," I said. "I never authorized this." "I have the form right here," she replied. "It was notarized yesterday. Your parents explained it was for a family emergency." I felt sick. Yesterday, when they'd invited me over for dinner, when Mom insisted I have that second glass of wine, when Dad asked me to sign some insurance paperwork while I helped Mom with the dishes. The papers I barely glanced at, because they were my parents and I trusted them. "I'm sending you the form now," the representative said. I opened the email with shaking hands. There it was, my signature, slightly messier than usual, on a withdrawal authorization form. They'd slipped it in with the insurance documents. I ended the call and sat at my desk, trying to process what had just happened. My own parents had stolen from me. The savings I'd built over 5 years of hard work. The money I'd set aside for a down payment on my first house. Gone. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. "We need to talk. Come over after work." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and clicked on a folder labeled Home Security. 3 months ago, I'd installed hidden cameras in my parents' house. Not because I suspected theft. God, no. But because Dad had been having health issues and I wanted to check on them remotely. The cameras had caught everything. I watched the footage from the previous evening. Mom pouring me wine. Dad shuffling papers. The moment they slipped the withdrawal form into the stack. This morning, then driving to the bank, Dad confidently presenting the documents, Mom smiling as she counted out stacks of cash. My phone buzzed again, this time from Dad. "It's for the best, sweetheart. The family needed it more than you do." The family. I laughed bitterly. They meant my younger brother, Peter, who, at 25, had never held a job for more than 3 months, who still lived at home, spending his days playing video games and asking for loans he never repaid. The same brother who totaled 3 cars my parents replaced without hesitation. I remember the day I'd bought them their house 4 years ago, when the bank was about to foreclose on their old place. I'd emptied my first savings account, given them every penny I had. "We'll pay you back," they promised. They never did. But I hadn't minded then. They were my parents. That's what family does. Or last year, when Mom needed emergency surgery, I paid the deductible, covered the aftercare, even hired a nurse to help during recovery. Did they remember any of that now, as they walked out of the bank with my money? A memory surfaced. Me at 7 years old, proudly showing Mom my piggy bank. "I saved all my allowance," I'd said. She smiled and patted my head. Such a responsible girl, always thinking ahead. The next day, the piggy bank was empty. "Peter needed new soccer cleats," she explained. "You understand, don't you? He's your little brother." History repeating itself, only now, the stakes were higher. My phone kept buzzing. "Mom, don't be dramatic. You're young, you'll earn more." "Dad, we raised you better than to be selfish." "Mom, Peter really needs this chance. He's starting a business." "Dad, family comes first. Always." I opened my banking app again and stared at the transaction notice. $87,000. My future casually drained because family comes first. But hadn't I always put family first? Hadn't I been the one they called when bills were due, when Peter needed bailing out, when emergencies struck? My office phone rang. It was my boss, Sarah. "Everything okay, Kate? You look pale." I considered telling her everything, but what would I say? My parents drugged me with wine and tricked me into signing away my savings. That would sound crazy. Just feeling a bit under the weather, I lied. "Take the afternoon off," she said kindly. "You've been working too hard anyway." I thanked her and gathered my things. But I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to the bank and asked to speak with the manager. Mr. Phillips was a gray-haired man with kind eyes and reading glasses perched on his nose. My parents withdrew my savings this morning, I said, keeping my voice steady. I have evidence the authorization was obtained through deception. He leaned forward, concerned. That's a serious allegation, Miss Turner. I have proof, I said, opening my laptop. I played the footage, last night's wine, the paperwork, the calculated distraction. Then, this morning's video of them at the bank. Mr. Phillips watched in silence, his expression grave. When it ended, he removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. This is clear evidence of fraud, he said quietly. Have you contacted the police? I hesitated. They're my parents. He nodded sympathetically. Family situations are complicated, but what they did is still illegal. I know, I said, but before I decide whether to press charges, I need to understand one thing. Where's the money now? He typed on his computer. The cash was withdrawn this morning. But, he paused, frowning. There's a hold on their account. Any deposits made today won't be available for 24 hours. I felt a glimmer of hope. So if they deposited the cash into their account, it won't be accessible until tomorrow morning. I stood up. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. I need to make some calls. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with another text from Mom. We're waiting for you. Don't make this difficult. I drove to their house, my mind racing with plans. The security cameras were still recording. Everything that happened next would be documented. Their cars were in the driveway, Mom's silver SUV, Dad's old pickup, and Peter's brand new BMW. My stomach turned. Had they already spent some of my money on that? I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. Mom opened it, wearing her best, disappointed parent expression. Finally, she said, we've been waiting for hours. The living room looked exactly like it had the night before. Dad in his recliner, Peter sprawled on the couch with his phone. The only new detail, a thick envelope on the coffee table. Sit down, Dad said. We need to discuss this as a family. I remained standing. Where's my money? Don't be crude, Mom scolded. This isn't about money. It's about family. Family? I laughed. Was it family when you drugged me with wine? When you slipped that form in with the insurance papers? Peter looked up, suddenly interested. What's she talking about? Nothing, Dad said quickly. Your sister's being dramatic. I have it on video, I said calmly. All of it. The wine, the papers, this morning at the bank. The color drained from Mom's face. Dad sat up straighter. Video? He asked. What video? The security cameras I installed 3 months ago. Remember when I was worried about your health, Dad? I wanted to check on you remotely. Peter stood up. You've been spying on us? No, I said. I've been protecting myself, and it's a good thing I did. I pulled out my phone and played the footage. They watched in silence as the deception played out. When it ended, Mom tried to recover. It doesn't matter. What's done is done. Peter needs this money for his business venture. What venture? I asked Peter directly. He shifted uncomfortably. Cryptocurrency trading. This guy I met online has a foolproof system. I closed my eyes. Of course. Another get-rich-quick scheme. The money's gone, Dad said firmly. Nothing you can do about it now. Actually, I said with a smile, there is. I spoke with the bank manager. I know you deposited the cash into your account. I know about the 24-hour hold, and I have proof of fraud. Silence. Peter looked between them, realization dawning. You stole her money, he asked. Actually stole it. We did what was necessary, Mom snapped. For you. I didn't ask for this, Peter said, backing away. I didn't know. Of course you didn't, I said softly. You never do. I turned to my parents. Here's what's going to happen. You have until tomorrow morning to return every penny. If you don't, I'm taking this evidence to the police. You wouldn't? Mom gasped. We're your parents. Parents don't steal from their children, I said. Parents don't drug their daughter and trick her into signing away her savings. But Peter's business, Dad began, is a scam. I cut him off. Just like every other scheme he's fallen for. And I'm done funding it. I walked to the door, then turned back. One more thing. Check your security cameras. All of them. You'll find they're not working anymore. I've locked you out of the system, but I still have access. Remember that. As I drove away, my phone exploded with messages. I ignored them all. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't going to fix their problems. They had until morning to make it right. That night, I sat in my apartment watching the live feed from their house. I saw them arguing, saw Mom crying, saw Dad making phone calls. I saw Peter pack a bag and leave, probably to crash at a friend's place. Around midnight, the light in their bedroom went out. But I kept watching. I had a feeling tomorrow would be interesting. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and over 100 text messages. Most were from Mom, ranging from angry, "How dare you threaten us?" to pleading, "We're your family, please understand." Dad had sent fewer messages, but each one was a guilt trip masterpiece. "Your mother couldn't sleep, and is this how we raised you?" Peter, surprisingly, had sent just one text. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." I ignored them all and headed to work early. At 9 a.m. sharp, I called Mr. Phillips at the bank. "The money was returned in full this morning," he said. "Your parents were waiting outside when we opened." Your father looked distressed. I could imagine. Dad hated admitting defeat more than anything. "Thank you, Mr. Phillips. I appreciate your help. Miss Turner," he added before I hung up, "we've flagged your account. Any future withdrawals will require additional verification, including a video call with you personally." "Perfect," I said, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. But I knew this wasn't over. My parents wouldn't let go that easily. Sure enough, at 10:30 a.m., Mom appeared in the lobby of Harrison and Partners. I watched through the glass walls of my office as she charmed the receptionist, probably playing the concerned mother card. Sarah intercepted her before she could reach my office. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Turner, but Kate's in meetings all day." "Nonsense," Mom said, loudly enough for the entire floor to hear. "I'm her mother. She'll see me." I stood up and walked to my office door. "No, actually, I won't." Mom's face crumpled into her practiced hurt expression. "Katie, honey, we need to talk about this like adults." "Adults?" I laughed. "Adults don't drive their children and steal their savings." Several heads turned our way. Mom's face flushed red. We didn't," she sputtered. "I have it on video," I reminded her quietly. "Every moment. Would you like me to play it here? I'm sure my colleagues would find it interesting." She took a step back. "You're being cruel." "No, Mom, I'm being clear. Go home. And don't come to my workplace again." Sarah stepped in. "Mrs. Turner, I'll have security escort you out." As Mom was led away, she called back, "Your father's heart condition. All this stress." I closed my office door and sat down, hands shaking. Sarah brought me a cup of tea. "Family trouble?" she asked gently. I nodded. "You could say that." "Take the rest of the day," she said. "Sort it out. Your projects are ahead of schedule anyway." I thanked her and packed up my things. But instead of going home, I drove to my old neighborhood. Not to my parents' house, to Mrs. Martinez's place next door. She'd been our neighbor for 20 years and had always been more of a mother to me than my home. She opened the door and immediately pulled me into a hug. "Oh, Majita, I've been worried about you. You know what happened?" She nodded, ushering me inside. "Your mother was crying to me this morning. Said you were being unreasonable about a family emergency." I sat at her familiar kitchen table, watching her make coffee. "Did she tell you what kind of emergency?" "Something about Peter's business opportunity." Mrs. Martinez snorted. "That boy hasn't worked a day in his life." I told her everything, the wine, the fraud, the cameras. She listened without interrupting, her face growing darker with each detail. "Dios mío," she muttered when I finished. "I knew they favored him, but this." "I got the money back," I said. But it hurts," she finished, "because now you know what they're capable of." I nodded, fighting tears. "Listen to me," she said, taking my hands. "I've watched you grow up, watched you work harder than anyone, watched you give and give while they took and took. Maybe this needed to happen." "What do you mean?" "Sometimes we need to see people clearly to break free from them." She squeezed my hands. "You're stronger than all of them combined." As if on cue, my phone buzzed, a text from Peter. "They're talking about selling the house. Dad says it's your fault." Mrs. Martinez read the message over my shoulder and laughed. "Manipulation. They're trying to make you feel guilty." She was right. This was just another manipulation tactic. But for the first time, I could see it clearly. I hugged Mrs. Martinez goodbye and drove home. Time to set some boundaries. I opened my laptop and wrote an email. Mom and Dad, what you did was illegal. It was a betrayal of trust and a clear message about how you view me, not as a daughter, but as a source of funding. I won't press charges, but here are my conditions. No more surprise visits to my workplace. No more guilt trips about Peter's opportunities. No more access to my finances, ever. Break these conditions and the security footage goes to the police. Kate. I hit send and waited. 10 minutes later, Dad replied, Your mother is devastated. Is money more important than family? I wrote back one line. Is stealing from your daughter what family means to you? Then I blocked their numbers, poured myself a glass of wine, one I could trust, and settled in for a quiet evening. But as I watched the security feed one last time before disconnecting it, I saw something interesting. Peter was back at the house, but he wasn't playing video games. He was filling out job applications. Maybe some good would come from this after all. What I didn't know then was that this was just the beginning. The real storm was yet to come, and it would change everything. A week passed. Then, too, my parents' house remained eerily quiet on the security feeds, which I kept running despite my better judgment. The most interesting change was Peter. He was actually leaving the house each morning, dressed in business casual attire. I discovered through LinkedIn that he'd taken an entry-level position at a local marketing firm. Just when I thought things were settling down, Sarah called me into her office. Kate, have you seen this? She turned her computer screen toward me. It showed a local community Facebook group, and there was my mother's post. URGENT, prayer request for our daughter who was turned against her family. After years of supporting her career, she's abandoned us in our time of need. Her father's heart condition is worsening from stress. Please pray she remembers the meaning of family before it's too late. The post had over 200 comments, most expressing sympathy for my poor parents and condemning my selfishness. Some were from people I'd known my whole life. Old teachers, family friends, church members. I normally wouldn't get involved, Sarah said, but they're tagging the company now, suggesting we review your employment due to character concerns. I felt the blood drain from my face. They're trying to get me fired. Sarah smiled grimly. They clearly don't know how valuable you are to this firm. But Kate, you need to handle this. It's affecting our brand. I nodded, my mind already forming a plan. Give me 24 hours. That evening, I created a new social media account under my full name, Catherine Marie Turner. I posted a single video, carefully edited footage from my parents' house. It showed them plotting with the wine, the signature fraud, everything. I added text overlays explaining each scene, including bank statements showing my years of financial support for them. The final frame was a simple message. Sometimes family doesn't mean what you think it means, and sometimes standing up for yourself is the hardest but most necessary thing you can do. I shared it in response to my mother's post and went to bed. By morning, everything had shifted. The community's sympathy had turned to shock and outrage, not at me, but at my parents. Their post was flooded with new comments. You drugged your own daughter. This is elder financial abuse in reverse. I can't believe I fell for their story. Mom deleted her original post, but the damage was done. Their carefully crafted image of devoted parents was shattered. Then came the unexpected knock at my door. It was Peter, looking more put together than I had ever seen him. Can we talk? I let him in, watching as he took in my apartment, the place I'd worked so hard to afford while funding his lifestyle. I got my first paycheck yesterday, he said, pulling an envelope from his jacket. It's not much, but... He handed it to me. Inside was a check for $2,000. Peter. It's the start of paying you back, he said quickly. I did the math. Over the years, they gave me more than $50,000 of your money. I didn't know, or maybe I didn't want to know, where it was coming from. I sat down, stunned. What changed? He ran a hand through his hair. Watching that video you posted, seeing it all laid out like that, I realized I'd been part of the problem. They enabled me, but I let them. Used them, used you. The job? I asked. First step, he nodded. I'm also seeing a therapist. Turns out being the golden child messes you up too, just differently. I looked at the check in my hands. Keep this, I said. Use it for therapy. That's a better investment. But I want to make it right. Then make it right by building your own life. Break the cycle. He hugged me then. Our first real hug in years. I'm sorry, he whispered, for everything. After he left, I checked the security feeds one last time. Mom and Dad were in the kitchen, arguing about the fallout from their failed social media campaign. But something was different. Their power dynamic had shifted. Their weapons of guilt and manipulation had been exposed, rendered useless. My phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Martinez. Your mother's crying to everyone that you've destroyed their reputation. I told her she destroyed it herself when she chose to steal from her daughter. Haven't heard her this quiet in 20 years. I smiled, but it was bittersweet. This wasn't the happy ending I'd wanted with my parents. But maybe it was the necessary ending, the one that would let me, and even Peter, build something healthier from the ashes. The email arrived from an unexpected source. My father's sister, Aunt Claire, who'd moved to Australia 15 years ago. The subject line read, I know what they did to you too. Dear Kate, your video reached us here in Melbourne. I've been silent too long, but watching you stand up to them gave me the courage to finally tell you the truth. 15 years ago, I didn't just move away for a fresh start, as everyone believes. I left because your parents did the same thing to me. They took $150,000 from my account. Money from our parents' inheritance that was meant to be split equally between your father and me. They used the same tactics. Doctored documents, emotional manipulation, family pressure. I have all the proof, including the original will. I'm flying in next week. It's time for the whole truth to come out. Love, Aunt Claire. I sat there stunned. The pieces started falling into place. Why Aunt Claire had left so abruptly. Why my parents never spoke about her except to call her selfish and family-hating. 2 days later, Peter called. Dad's in the hospital. Not his heart. He had a panic attack after getting some letter from Aunt Claire's lawyer. I went to the hospital, not for them, but to make sure Peter was okay. In the waiting room, I found Mom pacing, her designer handbag replaced by a worn tote, her manicure chipped. They're going to take everything, she whispered when she saw me. Claire's lawyer, the will, it was never supposed to come out. Like my savings weren't supposed to come out? I asked quietly. She collapsed into a chair. We needed it. Every time we needed it. Your grandmother's house was so expensive. Grandmother's house? I interrupted. What are you talking about? The beach house, Peter explained. The one they said was sold years ago. They used Aunt Claire's money to buy it. They've been renting it out all these years. The final deception unraveled. All those family vacations we could never take because the beach house had to be sold for medical bills. It was just another lie. Dad was discharged that evening, looking smaller somehow. The confident man who'd walked into a bank with forged documents was gone, replaced by someone who finally had to face consequences. A week later, I sat in a lawyer's office with Aunt Claire, my parents, and Peter. The truth came out in full. The stolen inheritance, the hidden property, years of financial manipulation. The resolution was clear. The beach house would be sold, with proceeds split between Claire and me. My parents would need to downsize, learn to live within their actual means. What about me? Peter asked quietly. You, I said, keep going to therapy, keep your job, build your own life. He nodded, understanding. As we left the lawyer's office, Aunt Claire hugged me. You did what I couldn't do 15 years ago. You stood up to them. Will they ever change? I asked. She smiled sadly. Maybe not, but we have changed, and that's what matters. 3 months later, I used my portion from the beach house sale to put a down payment on a small but beautiful home of my own. Peter helped me move in, carrying boxes and arguing about furniture placement like a real brother. Mom and Dad, they sold their house and moved into a modest apartment. Dad took a part-time job at a hardware store. Mom started clipping coupons. Sometimes they sent cards, not asking for money, just saying they're sorry, they're trying to understand, they're learning. I keep the cards in a drawer. Maybe someday I'll be ready to believe them. But for now, I'm focused on building my own life. One where financial boundaries are clear, and family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. Last week, Peter got a promotion. He took me and Aunt Claire out to dinner to celebrate his treat. As we laughed over dessert, I realized something. Sometimes the family you rebuild is stronger than the one you were born into. And sometimes the happiest endings aren't about forgiveness or forgetting. They're about growing strong enough to write your own story on your own terms. The security cameras, I finally turned them off. I don't need to watch anymore. I know exactly where I stand, and more importantly, so do they.